Okay, Podsters, this is it. This is your tipping point, your moment to take action or live with never knowing what could have been. We all have that thing that we know we are meant to do that scares us, that we're not sure we can do, and that we know we need a little help doing. My Do the Thing Fall Retreat is happening October 13th through 15th in where else? Cape Cod, in the tranquil seaside town of Truro, where I've hand selected a beach house for 9 like-minded women to get together and do the thing. You already know that there's a life waiting for you on the other side of this thing. And this powerful, intimate 2.5-day workshop is exactly what you need. If you don't do it now, you probably never will. Don't live with regret. Do the thing. Click the link, fill out the very brief application. Let's hop on a call because I want to make sure it's the right fit for you. Together, let's do the thing. Welcome to Unmute Yourself, the podcast. I'm Nancy Medoff, keynote speaker, best-selling author, executive coach, and equity evangelist who literally wrote the book on women in confidence.
And I'm Beth Knaus, creative copywriter who works with female entrepreneurs who are done putting safe and general content out there and ready to walk the fine line between honoring their bold voices and perspectives and honoring their professionalism. We are on fire and on a mission to inspire and empower you, and who are we kidding? The world, to speak up, stand out, and get your seat at the table. If you're looking for straight talk and a weekly shot of confidence, you've landed in the right place.
Beth and I met while collaborating on my #1 bestseller, Unmute Yourself and Speak Up to Stand Out. We hit it off and we knew right away that we needed to keep these important conversations going so that women around the globe will speak up and stop building our own glass ceiling. So here we are, coming at you weekly with a perfect blend of realistic strategies, actionable tools, and real life stories to bring these important and somewhat controversial ideas to life. Doing so with humor, kindness, and the occasional shenanigans.
Get ready to feel empowered and inspired to speak up, to stand out, and to build your confidence toolkit. Note to men or women who are not working in a professional capacity, we see you too, and we promise you the conversations here will inspire you as well. So buckle up, folks, because here we go.
And we're recording. Here we are.
We are live and alive.
We are live and alive and happy to be alive.
Yes,
frankly,
definitely.
Right?
In the middle of Women's History Month, the day after International Women's Day.
The day after International Women's Day. So if I sound a little edgy, it's because I just knocked my vase with all, is it vase or vase, Beth?
I say vase.
Oh, I'd like to change it up. Sometimes I say vase, sometimes I say vase. Irregardless.
And you can. You can say either way. You can say, potato or potato.
I think if you grew up in America and you say potato, I'm gonna think maybe you have some
issues.
But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
So here's the scoop, y'all. We are on the tail end of International Women's Week. This will get aired the week after, and that's why I might sound a little hoarse or a little less energetic than usual. It was a very fine and very rigorous week, and I left Beth a message this morning and said, "Hey Beth, something really stuck with me, having spoken and trained over 1,000 women this week, and I want to change it up and see if you'd be open to talking about this on the podcast." So what was her reaction? Beth, what was your reaction?
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. So here's, do you mind if I tee it up? You can tee up the next one.
That's okay. You can tee it up. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So, and I'm gonna give you a little trigger alert, a warning alert, spoiler alert. I got choked up twice this past week because of this, and it was really remarkable. So
I was on a live LinkedIn Live podcast, which, by the way, Podsters, we're going to start doing LinkedIn Live. I know we keep saying that, but we really are going to start doing it. So I was on this live with Kwame Christian. The name of his company is called American Negotiation Institute. And so if you're on LinkedIn, go to his page, go to events, and you'll see this. If you click on events, you'll see this LinkedIn Live, which is a live recording of his podcast. And he's also a great guy, and it's great material, all of it, not just mine. Anywho, so we go on LinkedIn Live, and one of the things I loved about it was that we were able to interact live, thus LinkedIn Live, with the audience. So I said to myself, I really need to recommit to LinkedIn Live. So I think we're going to recommit to that. And by the way, Beth has a very nice necklace on today, everyone. So in other news, I'm on the LinkedIn Live, and one of the things I do, and we've talked about it on this podcast before, is talk about we all have baggage, and we all have baggage that we take with us wherever we go. And I'm talking about emotional baggage or spiritual baggage or whatever you want to call it. So on this podcast, there was probably about 200 people on this LinkedIn Live. I said to the group, I'd like to ask you to throw your comments in the chat as to what you have been told or what has been said to you in the past that now makes you less likely to speak up. And the chat blew up. All kinds of things. You're too much. You're bossy. You're too ambitious. You're a lot. Beth, what are some of the ones that you've heard? Not necessarily about you, but some of the ones that, like.
I like when people use the word overbearing.
You're overbearing. You need to tone it down. You're too bossy. One of the people on the call, and I can't remember if it was this call or if it was a keynote, when she was 12 years old, someone told her that she was too bossy and she needed to tone it down. And it just broke my heart. And I think, I was a little emotionally tapped, right? It was a lot. This is a lot of people and a lot of training and a lot of energy, particularly virtually. And I started to get a little choked up. There were people from Asia on this call. There were people from the Caribbean. There were people from all over the world. And the one thing everyone had in common was that they were told for whatever reason they were too much and not to speak up. And to this day, this holds them back. And again, or not again, I didn't mention this. We're talking about best-selling authors. We're talking about thought leaders. So the people that are in this community, in his community, are like legit. Everybody's legit, but they are best in class in their field. And they're all typing this stuff in. And we both, Kwame, who I did the podcast with, and we were just both blown away. And so the reason why I wanted to bring it up, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Beth, is because I wanted a few things. One, both of us want everyone to know that everybody feels less than sometimes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who you are. It does not matter who you are. And we've talked about imposter feeling. By the way, I got like 1,000 people this week to commit to calling it imposter feeling.
Yes.
Yes. And that we all have baggage. It's when you let the comments impact your behavior. That is when the cycle starts, and then the cycle continues. You're treated differently or you're told something. That impacts the way you behave. That impacts your level of confidence. Therefore, you don't speak up. It's a vicious cycle. So I'm going to pause for a minute and ask Beth to jump in here. I didn't really ask you a question, but what are your thoughts?
I know. Yeah. So this is a big thing for me because I was thinking about this. I don't think that not that I don't have this, I definitely have baggage, but I like this challenge of someone telling me that's too much, or why would you say that? Or, that's loud, or that's whatever. Okay. Well, why should I be uncomfortable with that if that's who I am? If you're uncomfortable, you don't have to stay and listen to me, or you don't have to engage with it, but this is who I am. So what, why am I changing? I don't, I I see a lot of people who deal with it. I definitely have a lot of people close to me who deal with that sort of thing of like what they're supposed to say and how they're supposed to say it and where they're supposed to be when they do and act in certain ways. And there's just all these like underlying rules, right? And limitations. It made me think about boundaries and limitations, right? And so boundaries are these things we set for ourselves, and we say, okay, here are my boundaries. This is where I draw the line with things. And limitations, on the other hand, are on the surface things that we put on ourselves sometimes. They came from somewhere.
Right.
And so I think we have to look at where are those limitations coming from. And maybe they served a real purpose at the time when someone instilled them on us, but that doesn't mean that they still serve us, or that they served us then, and that person probably made that limitation out of their fear. I feel like limitations, when you put them on another person, sometimes are fear-based.
That's interesting. And somewhat generational, right? Is that what you were talking about this morning when you were talking about generation?
Yeah, so that's what I meant when I said that. I do feel like, you can see like your great-grandmother or your grandmother, it's nice to see that people have traditions or rituals or things that they do and pass down, but there's other things that they pass down too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's part of it. I think those limitations are part of it. And I think that, today for us, like, we can take care of ourselves. And for the most part, we're encouraged to take care of ourselves. But I think if you think of your grandmother or your great-grandmother, their job was to, follow their man's opinion. Their man was the breadwinner, and they were the ones who stayed at home and quietly took care of the homestead, almost like the backstage crew. And the man was in the forefront. And that's how it was, right? And for whatever reason, they had to go out and earn the money and work overtime and make sure they could pay all the bills. And right, women didn't know about bills then. I think my grandmother probably knew about bills, but I can't imagine my great-grandmother did. It's not that long ago. It's not that long ago.
I know. So I think one of the things that I was saying this week, one of the things we talked about a lot this week, because the theme of International Women's Day is embrace equity. And I did a lot of research on what equity is, what it isn't. We had a podcast about it. And I did a lot of talking about bias. And there were two biases that I honed in on. One of them was confirmation bias, which can be viewed as either good or bad, and it's situational, or can be viewed as either helpful or not helpful, and it's situational. So this is a situation where your confirmation bias, if you can change your mindset, your confirmation bias will serve you. So let's say you were told you're too much when you were, 18, 19, and you decide in your mid-20s to early 30s that you are going to rewrite that, and you're going to not let that take up space in your brain, and instead you are going to act as if that is not true. So if you disregard it, you will then think, I'm not too much. I should speak up. So I should speak up is really what I'm getting at. And then when you think I should speak up, your confirmation bias will subconsciously call in people, situations, relationships, data, everything to support that. So whatever you think, your confirmation bias will serve to prove. So if you change what you think, which you're in charge of what you think about. No one else is in charge of what you think about. No one. So if you can change that, then your confirmation bias kicks in and it breaks the cycle. So this was important to me to talk about because it happened on now again, these were virtuals. It happened on every session. the chat blew up in every session, and I didn't know this was going to happen. I just said, okay, I'm going to ask people kind of who had, who had these people kind of shut them down or quiet them down when they were younger. And again, if you're treated differently, you'll feel differently. If you feel differently, you act differently. And when you act differently, that lack of confidence shows and you don't raise your hand. So it's up to us to break the cycle.
Yes. Yes, it is.
You said something earlier that I wanted to ask you about. You said you like it when, what I heard was, this isn't what you said, but what you heard was you like it when someone like challenges you and tries to quiet you down.
I do.
Do you like it?
I don't like it, but I'm just like, obviously if it's unwarranted. And yeah, I feel like who are you to tell me what to do?
Love that.
Yeah, I just don't.
Where do you think you got that spunk? That's an old word.
I'm not quite sure. I think I've always had kind of like that under the radar, nonconformist kind of, I don't have to do what you told me to do. I've always been that person on the outside of the circles, like just looking in, like I really want to be in the center of the circle. I want to kind of be on the outside, be my own person. I want to listen to the B-sides of my 45s.
I love that. I like that.
I just don't, just because I guess I learned at an early age not just to trust what somebody says just because they say it. I think that's a little piece of it for me too, is that I'm always like, how do you back that up? What's your proof that I shouldn't be like that?
That's a really good point. Just because they say it does not make it true.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Even if it's your parents or your, whoever raised you or somebody that you trust, or, even if it's your spouse or a teacher. I mean, there were examples from all kinds of, there was example from teachers, there was examples from parents, aunts, grandmothers, grandfathers, spouses. It was wild. It was really, really wild. It was really wild.
Yeah. That must have been, I could see why you got choked up over that.
I got choked up a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot because, okay, so you said you don't back down when somebody says something like that to you. Do you think it ever affects your willingness to speak up? Not in the moment, later on.
I mean, it's probably there, and I probably have to. Like, I love how you just talked about confirmation bias. I mean, I'm definitely having a lot of internal conversations in my head. If I feel a certain way, like, oh, well, was I really loud? Was I obnoxious? Was I too direct? Was I whatever? And then I'm like, it could take me a few minutes, but then I'm like, you know what? This is who I am. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I feel like I go through this with my clients, true, right? Like, because many times they'll say, well, I'm afraid to say this because, what if some people don't like it? Great. Let them get out of the way, right? So that the people who want to hear you in the back can get closer to the front. Like, I'm not saying it's not challenging, but there's a part of me that knows factually that's the right thing to do. That it could be a little, make me a little bit nervous, but I know that if I do it, it's a right thing to do. Otherwise, you find yourself like stuck around a bunch of people that don't really make you feel great about yourself or great about what you do, and they get in the way of what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Totally agree. So one of the things that I did a lot of this week was talk about how to kind of reframe that, or not reframe, because you really can't reframe it when somebody says something like that, or how do you not let that stop you? So, and I'm trying to think of a real life example from me. So I'm going to go with I have what I think is a pretty good example. So I used to think that my energy I'm a very high energy person. I used to think that was a bad thing. And I can't tie it back to one particular person or reason or moment in time. But I'm sure that someone somewhere or many people said, you're too high energy or tap down that energy, whatever. I now know that that energy is what makes me a successful public speaker, and that energy is what makes me able to bring people along with ideas. But it wasn't until, I would say it wasn't until maybe the last 5 or 10 years, 5 years maybe, that I was able to realize that. And
Mhm.
I don't even know that it was a conscious. I don't even know that it was a conscious thing. So I think what I'm saying is, to everyone listening, think about what your it factor is, and if your it factor, or if what makes you you is something that in the past you've been told you should tamp down, whatever that may be, then it's your choice to either accept it and let it take up headspace, or not. And I would say not. Like, this is, you can change this at any time. Just stop letting it occupy space in your brain. And when you do that, what will occupy space in your brain is that the flip of whatever that is, and then you will call in, like with the confirmation bias. This is a great example. So when I started to realize that my energy was not a negative and was in fact part of my it factor, and I say that because I don't love superpower. So if anybody has any other suggestions, I welcome that. So what makes me unique? When I realized that, that's when I started really amping up my public speaking. And that's when I really started to step into my strengths and who I am and what I should be doing. And then my whole life came together. So I think that's what I wanted to make sure that we got out into the world this week.
Yeah. Yeah. And what this makes me think of too is that, when kids are little and they do things that you don't expect them to do, like throw constant temper tantrums or yell, or they're emotional and just reactive. Like, as a parent, like, your reaction is to be like, okay, don't do it. Don't do that. Don't do it. The neighbors are outside. They hear you, or whatever. And not that I ever had a child like this. I did. Like, after a while, I would say to myself, like, this is who this child is. Like, this is how they react emotionally. And, it came to a point where this child would say, why do I cry so much? And why do I cry so easily? And and I would say, you know what? You are passionate and you are sensitive. And as you get older, you're going to learn how to use this to your benefit. But I think that's a hard thing,
Right.
It's hard to teach and let go of the fact that, because parents are being judged all the time. Women are being judged all the time. And you're just worried about being judged. And I'd be like, guess what? I mean, I had one time this child like break down on an airplane flight, and somebody leaned over to me and said, what are you going to do about that? I said, you want to give it a shot?
This was your kid?
Yeah, they just had a meltdown. And there was just just the kind of thing where they had to just work through it, because you could make it worse if you fed into it. And, the woman leaned over, she was next to me. Are you going to do something about that? And I said, you want to jump in?
Thank you for the feedback. I welcome any suggestions.
Thank you for your unsolicited feedback.
We haven't aired that one yet. I don't think we've aired that one yet, Podsters, but that's coming. That's going to be a good one.
But, it was like, listen, I'm doing the best I can here. But like, that's who that child was. And it's so serving that child today.
Yeah. When you brought up I'm looking for, I saved something that I read about and I'm not the expert by any means, when your child acts out, it's your child's way of telling you that they need you.
Yeah.
So, right? Like that just, the way this was said really hit me. Like, they're not trying to throw a tantrum and be obnoxious. This is their way of telling you, I need to connect with you. We need to connect. And I was like, wow, that's a really interesting point.
No, teenagers like to do it to be obnoxious, but little kids do it to get your attention because they need you.
Right. Wild. I never even thought about that. I can't find it, of course. Okay, so how about so for do you have any tips besides what I?
Well, yeah. So I feel like, if you're like looking to get to your next level, or even just to feel comfortable in the level that you're at, and these are the type of things that are pulling you back, if you haven't done some sort of exploratory deep work at this point, like, you might want to think about it, if it's something you've been carrying in the back of your mind for 20 or 30 years, like, and it's getting in your way, you don't deserve to have to deal with that or carry it around, right? We talked about this being baggage, and like, how heavy of a bag are you going to keep dragging through life? It's, what are we afraid of to cut the ties with those beliefs?
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I wonder if I'm trying to write this down and talk at the same time. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid is going to happen if we cut out these beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I think it's it's who we think we are.
Yeah.
So if I don't believe that, well, then I got to go figure out what I really am.
Right.
And then I'm vulnerable.
Right.
It's a lot safer. Yeah, go ahead.
And will I still be able to be connected to the person who fed me this belief? Right? Because we have plenty of people around us that we love. Just because they had a belief that they embedded in us that's not working for us doesn't mean we're not going to love them anymore. But are they going to love us? Right? I should have gone to school for psychology.
Well, that's interesting. I was actually I wasn't even thinking about who said it. Like, I can't even, or of course that's important, but I don't remember where I got this, that my energy is too much, which, by the way, I know it is at times, right? I know that. So come on. So there's it's a balance, and I know that. Hopefully I've gotten better at it. But if I don't believe in who I've been told I was, then who am I? And that's very scary.
Yeah.
That's very scary. That's actually a really good point. I bet that's why a lot of people.
Right. Say that again. Let's say that again for the podsters, Nance.
If I don't think I can. If I don't believe what I've been told or who I think I am, then who am I?
Right.
And I had this conversation with a one-on-one client this past week too. That having the courage to work on that is what will change your life and what will bring you to who you are, not who people think you are, to who you are. And that's a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Whoa. We're getting deep.
Yeah. So I'd say, talk to somebody, coach, therapist, journal it out, people, pen and paper, the answer to a lot of things. Or, your personal tribe, personal board of directors, someone in there that you really feel like you can be raw and open with, safe with. Your partner.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Do your partner, whoever you feel safe with talking about that.
And if you don't feel safe talking with someone about it, which is highly possible.
Mm-hmm.
So Beth likes to Beth journals. I don't journal as much as I used to. I voice journal like a mother. Like there are so many notes on my phone, voice notes. And it's interesting because when I go back and play them, I can hear my tone and I can hear what's going on with me when I say it. So that's actually, it's really interesting. So if you want to explore this and you don't feel comfortable, or sometimes you just don't know what to say. You don't know how to articulate what it is that you want to say.
Right.
Say it to yourself. Leave yourself a voice recording.
Talk to yourself. I talk to myself all day long.
All day. All day.
Yep.
And it's great.
Yes.
Well, that was a good one, Beth.
I like it. I like it
too. So yeah, I think this will probably be the last. It might be the last one we air in March. So more lessons from International Women's Day and Women's Week are coming. Mm-hmm. We have some pretty cool episodes coming up. Our creative thinking is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hit us up. So, well, by the way, a quick shout out to those people who commented in the chat. So if you are with Heineken, or if you are with Point Click Care, or if you are with the American Negotiation Institute, if you were on that podcast, because all of these people spoke up. And of course, if you're with Dentsply Sirona, which is a medical device based in the UK. Thank you all for doing that and for putting those comments in, because it was something. It was really something. I think that's why I'm so monotone. Like, of course I'm tired, but I think I'm just emotionally spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're shook.
I'm shook. Okay. So anything else, Beth?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Great. We have links on how to reach us. Please shoot us a note, everyone. Please, please, please. We'd love to hear from you. We record these. They go out in the ether. Are people listening? Are they not? We look at metrics. We don't know. Let us know. Let us know what resonates.
Absolutely. And connect with us on the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, and let us know, hey, I listened to your podcast. I'd love to connect. Then we know how you found us.
Exactly. All right. We are off for now, but not for good.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's a wrap, Podsters. If you were thinking of someone as you were listening to this, share it. If you nodded along and even shouted out a couple of yes, leave us a review. Please, please, please. If you want to make sure you don't miss next week's episode, hit that follow button.
And you can find us everywhere. And if you would like to learn more about us and exactly what we do, take a look in the show notes for our deets. See you
next week.
Podsters.